Welcome back to this week's video. Today we're going to look into r/MaliciousCompliance. If you aren't familiar with this subreddit, I can highly recommend you look into it. I personally find it quite fun to dive into. It's basically filled with people who take what they're told to the logical extreme. I don't fully know how to explain it, but do stick around. Management said we had to work 8 AM to 5 PM Eastern time, so we did, and let them deal with explaining to our Californian clients why we weren't available. So this happened a while ago, before remote work was even a concept, think 2008-ish. I was working for a large media agency, and for anyone who knows agency work, we typically work around our client schedule, or at least as best as possible. We were based in New York City, but had Californian clients, so it was pretty standard that we get in at 10 AM and leave at around 7-8 PM. If you stayed to 9 PM, you could take a car service home, so sometimes we just did that. Most of us were in our 20s, so no big deal. When a new CEO started, he was used to working in Europe, and hated that we weren't in the office by 8 AM, and forced the company policy that we had to be in the office from 8 AM to 5 PM. We of course followed the rules, because who wouldn't want to leave at 5 AM? Let's just say the policy was lifted in 2 weeks, when our West Coast client couldn't get in touch with us. Okay, so I have yet to gain a lot of work experience. I'm not done with school yet, so take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt. But based on what I've heard, if you take over as CEO or manager, you should let things run as they have been for a while. Because let's be honest, there is likely a reason behind why it works. And if you change things straight away, chances are that you're going to screw something up. Do not speak to the regional manager. Many months ago, I was the lowest guy at rental center. The regional manager, Greg, was visiting. And my manager, wanting all the attention, told me not to speak to Greg for any reason. When Greg arrived, he introduced himself and shook my hand, but I stayed silent. My manager gave a nervous smile and told him my name. Later, the phone rang for Greg. I yelled for my manager across the store that the phone was for Greg, even though Greg was standing right next to me. Greg asked why I didn't just tell him directly. I silently looked at my manager, who awkwardly admitted he told me not to talk to him. Greg found it ridiculous, and my manager looked like a fool. Karma really comes back to bite you, doesn't it? I bet that was so satisfying to watch though. No hair that touches his shirt collar. Okay, we'll wear wigs. This is setting the way back machine to the early 90s, back when the membership warehouse I worked for allowed smoking in the break rooms. One day, seemingly out of nowhere, a warehouse manager decided to enforce a dress code that men's hair could not be long enough to touch the collar of our shirts. This was a problem for a few of my coworkers who had very long hair. One guy had been growing his out since high school and was down to his ass, while no of them wanted to cut their hair, but were given no wiggle room. Well, one day, the guy referenced above came to work with short hair. It looked like he actually cut it, but after a few days he told us, no management, that he had had a wig made that looked like his real hair. This led to all the other guys with questionable locks getting wigs. Now, where the malicious compliance comes in is that the wigs became more and more ridiculous. A ginger got one that was jet black. An African American guy had a wig that was red. It got to the point where the shoppers were making comments, and these guys weren't shy about telling them that the management said that they weren't allowed to have long hair. The whole fiasco lasted less than 4 months, before we were told as long as the natural hair was clean, presentable, and didn't interfere with work duties, length would no longer be an issue. Okay, so I could have understood the rule if it was the case they worked heavy machinery or with a lot of food, because their hair can get in the way, but that doesn't seem to be the case here. This rule was completely odd and had no real reason to exist in the first place. I'm kind of happy to see that it's gone. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. I hope you enjoyed your stay. Remember to like and subscribe if you feel like I deserve it. And until next time, I hope you have a great day, night or evening, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.